color's not quite right. Who cares? It's your model. Just paint it pink. Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by Irregular Dude. Was that creepy enough for you? Again, welcome back. So I'm sitting here and I'm getting ready to start my next project, which is an Academy 1/32 scale Newport 17 World War I biplane. And I'm getting everything set up on my workstation here. And one of the things I do is I take the instructions, make a photocopy of the color callouts. Then I cut it out, put it on a little clip, and stick it to my magnetic strip for easy access, so I don't have to flip back and forth in the instructions. So because of that, I started thinking about colors and color accuracy and stuff, and how it just can be a real source of contention. And an example would be olive drab. You know, olive drab, it's, you know, the color on almost all U.S. vehicles and stuff like that in World War II and beyond. And the problem with that is, what color is olive drab? Well, depends on which manufacturer of paint you're buying, because, you know, you got 10 different brands of paint. You can have 10 completely different shades of olive drab. So which one is accurate? Well, you know, there's all this study going on and research, and it's like color chips and all this kind of stuff, and it just gets kind of overwhelming with the amount of talk that can go on about color accuracy. And there's so many factors that play into it, and I don't want to get real in depth into the, you know, theory of all this kind of stuff, but just as an example, you get these 10 different manufacturers, and you put you make color chips of each, and then somebody on the internet says, you know, blink, here's a color chip. This is the one that totally matches U.S. olive drab color, blah, 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 blah. So you stick your color chips up there. It's like, oh, that's the one that's closest. Well, that's not going to be accurate, because what you're seeing on your computer monitor or even in print, 99.9% of the time, it's nowhere near what it actually is when you're looking at it in real life. So to get all bent out of shape about the accuracy of the color kind of doesn't make sense. And this isn't something that is this big revelation to me, because there's a lot of people that think the same way. For example, there's a YouTube channel I follow called IPMS Barbicon, and there are two primary players on there, and that would be Dave Forrest, or Forrester. Dave, if you're watching this, I apologize for not remembering. And Harvey Lowe. Both great modelers, do great building, great painting, great weathering. I really like their channel. It's good stuff, and I'm going to try and remember to put a link down below so you can go check it out if you want, because they have a lot of good stuff on there. But anyway, they banter back and forth, and it's like, well, you know, what made you decide on that color? Are you trying to get it as accurate as possible? No, they're not. It's like they're both, their mentality is get it close. Because each manufacturer's colors can be a little bit different. Some may be more on the brown scale, some more on the green scale, even some off into the gray or even yellow scale, just depending. And it's that way with all kinds of colors. And another really big one is Dunkelgelb. That one is sure to start a fight. But I say all that to say that's just one example of why the absolute accuracy doesn't matter. So why the video? I want to demonstrate a couple of ways that what you do building your model and how you do things can totally affect the color of the paint and totally negate any absolute accuracy you might have. And the first one I want to talk about is what's underneath the paint. So there's basically two ways you can paint a model. You can just paint it right on the bare plastic, which a lot of people do, and then you can paint it on top of primer, which is what a lot of people do, including me. Now, I don't want to get into the merits or, why you should or shouldn't paint on bare plastic or primer, because, every person does their own thing. But today's example, I'm going to show you how the surface underneath the paint can totally alter the color of the paint. And that's with something as simple as primer. So in order to demonstrate what I'm talking about, my current project, which is a Academy 1/32 scale Newport 17 World War I biplane. And I'm getting ready to paint the inside of the cockpit area and the fuselage with what these very particular painting instructions call out, which is desert yellow. That's vague. But I just so happen to have Tamiya acrylic XF59. In order to demonstrate what I'm talking about today, I'm going to use my current project, which is the Academy 1/32 scale Newport 17 World War I biplane fuselage. In the instructions, it calls out for desert yellow for the inside of the fuselage, which I'm assuming it's supposed to resemble, plywood or something. But desert yellow is the color. So that can be pretty vague. And what exact color they used inside, I don't know. I don't know if anybody does. But we do have the color. So that is the Tamiya color acrylic paint XF59 Desert Yellow. It's kind of a brownish yellow color, a little bit of orange cast to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray that, and I'm going to cut it with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and I'll be using probably a 30-70 mix, I think, maybe even a 25-75 mix, which is 25% paint, 75% thinner, and build it up. For the primer, I'm using Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 white, gray, and black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a stripe of white, a stripe of gray, and a stripe of black on the interior, and spray the paint evenly over all three primers. That way we can see what it looks like. I'm also going to, on the other side of the fuselage, I'm going to spray it on bare plastic so you can see what that looks like. And for a color control, I dipped my paint stirrer into the paint, a really thick layer, and let it dry so we get a nice control color. This is the color that's coming out of the pot, the jar. So we can kind of compare and see how different or how the same it looks inside the fuselage. So let me get that stuff painted up. I'm going to whip my camera into a different position, and then we'll start talking about the actual paint. Here we go. All right, so here we go. So let's look at the fuselage painted on bare plastic first. That is kind of close. It's got a little more of an orangish yellow cast as compared to the actual paint color. So there's difference number one. Then we have the fuselage that was painted with white, gray, and black. And as you can see, we got three totally different colors going on here. Now, yes, this could be made uniform just by applying more and more paint. Sometimes that's not the best thing, because if you have really fine surface detail, like say on a modern 1/72 scale Tamiya kit, The panel lines are very fine, more in scale with the size of the aircraft. So you put too much in there and you're going to start filling that in. I don't think it'd fill it in completely, because if you're putting that much paint, you probably best find another hobby. That's a lot of paint. But the less paint you can use to achieve the desired result is the best way to do it. So we have white here, gray, and black. So here is the control color. As you can see, this is more like this here, but a little bit darker. Then the gray here, different still. And then that is just way different. So, what have we learned? The primer or whatever is underneath the paint can make a big difference, especially if you're trying to keep from applying the paint too thickly. So is this a bad thing or a good thing? Well, it's neither. It's actually more of a good thing, because you can control what goes on with the paint in relation to the overall finished product. This is going to give you a brighter color using white. The gray, a little more neutral. The black is going to dull it down quite a bit. And that can work to your advantage in certain painting applications. And those I'll get into later. But I just wanted to show that it's going to look different depending on how you put it down. So what does this mean when talking about color accuracy? Well, if for some reason you were able to get that magical bottle of paint from the factory that gives you this color right here in a perfectly opaque manner, well, you've changed it just by spraying it on something, whether it be bare plastic or primer. You got four completely different shades from the original. That's why color accuracy doesn't really matter all that much. Again, I'm not knocking the desire for color accuracy, but to be just totally militant about it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. To argue and fight about it, that doesn't make sense either, because, you know, what are you achieving with that? A nice debate is cool, but in the end, how it goes on the model doesn't really matter. Especially when you get manufacturers like AK Real, I think it's AK Real Colors. Is it AK Real Colors? I can't remember. There are certain manufacturers that will give you 4 different paints or 3 different paints for a given color, say olive drab. You'll have an olive drab light for highlights, olive drab base for the basic color, and olive drab dark for doing the shadows and stuff like that. So again, if you start out with a really super accurate color, it's all shot down with the fact that you have 3 different shades of the color. So again, is it right or wrong? No, it's not right or wrong. I'm not trying to say that, you know, color accuracy is stupidity and you shouldn't do it, but it doesn't really matter as much. And if you're just a modeler just starting out, or if you're just really not that concerned about it, find a paint that works well for your application, whether it be a water-based acrylic or a lacquer-based acrylic, or a kind of a more of a hybrid kind of thing like this that's an alcohol-based. Find a paint you can work with, use that, because the way your paint lays down on your model, to me, is a little more important than absolute accuracy. So find a paint that works well and then use the color range there. And I'm not saying not to experiment with other brands, but, you know, life is short. I don't want to have to be messing with a bunch of different paints to figure out what works just to get the right color. I'm going to find a brand, I'm going to stick with it, or even a couple of brands, and stick with them and get my paint done. So there you have it. That's basically it. A whole lot of preamble, a whole lot of talking about the paint and stuff just to get to this right here. What's underneath, can really affect the way your paint turns out. In the next installment of this series, which I think is only going to be 2 videos, I'm going to talk about how you can use this phenomenon right here to your advantage when painting your model kits. It can be very helpful in a lot of ways. So next time, in the next edition of Why Paint Color Doesn't Matter, we're going to delve into that and do a little bit of experimentation. And that's it for this one. So if you like this video, if you think it was informative, if you think it was helpful, hit the like button. Please put a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. And, you know, if you thought it's pointless, put that in there as well. I want to make sure I'm making videos these days that people are actually going to watch and that are helpful and informative. So please get involved, people. Hit the like and or comment down below. Thanks for watching this edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Until the next time when we come back for more painting action, I bid you a fond farewell.